Hi, and welcome back to Dirtbag Baseball Talk, everybody. Great to have you here. And as you know, we're big advocates and promoters of the product called the Rope Trainer. John Smoltz, approves it and really, gravitates to it. And today's episode, we're going to talk about that and talk about how that connection came to be with what I think is even a more important person is Chris Verna, and he's a professional trainer. He's going to give you the official name of him and stuff like that. But Chris, it's great to have you with us here today talking about the Rope Trainer.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, buddy. And I guess we've known one another, Chris. We got to know each other through the Rope Trainer back in 2017. But if you want to share a little bit of the history of how you came to be involved with the Rope Trainer, because I think it's vital for all the people out there to understand how your connection to some of the data and the testing, but on the physiological side, biomechanical side, I guess, how it relates. So yeah, if you want to just give a little bit of the history, that'd be great.
Yeah, I was introduced to by a former major league pitcher named Richie Lewis up in Melbourne, and he called me one day and said, "Hey, what do you think of this?" He sent me a picture of it. I go, "I like this. This is interesting." So I got a hold of one, and I went and since I worked with John Smoltz since '91, I asked John to take a look at it. I said, "What do you think of this?" He goes, "I really like this." He goes, "Where's this been?" He says, "I would have used this, when I played." I said, "Yeah." I said, "But I think we might want to make a few changes to it." So we added an extra hole in there to 3 holes, and we went back, and then we met with Earl and Todd and all at the Rope Trainer and said, "Hey, what do you think of these changes?" They go, "Yeah, we'll do that." And now we have it for all ages. Before it was more for the younger ages and not for the older ages. We wanted something that would work, on the major league level all the way down. And sometimes you need more. The concept is that the rope behind, like the towel, creates drag behind you, so you pull your arm through. So I didn't think there's enough drag in there for us to, that's why I wanted to add another rope and also have it more balanced. We had ropes on one side more than the other. And then later on, I realized that was a good thing for when you want to do breaking pitches.
Yeah, for sure. And of course, you know what Chris is talking about. I mean, I've just got the single tether on with this one and that, but and that's kind of how it came to him, was with the one eyelet, opportunity. And then they've obviously added the ones on the side so you can get a 4-seam and a 2-seam grip. And as we're going to talk about for pitchers, really on this episode, the usages of it, you can even get into breaking balls and off-speed motion and stuff like that, which Chris is going to take us through because again, you've been working at it for about 5 years now, Chris, and not only John, but all the players, other players that you work with as well. So, so I guess, like I said to you, a lot of times there's still a lot of people that we hear these technology terms and stuff like that, but in layman's terms, pronation and supplementation and stuff like that. If you could even start there and take them through that type of stuff before you even really get showing them, some of the off-speed pitches with the Rope Trainer.
Sure. Well, that's one thing is why did you have this and not the towel? Everybody came up with the towel. Yeah. So let's go over that first. So what I love about the Rope Trainer is that you're actually grabbing the size and ball that you would normally use. And when you're doing that, when you grab the ball, you use the intrinsic muscles of your hand, which are the small muscles that just close your fingers. And so you have a grip pressure there, as well as when you throw, you use your forearm muscles. So when you use the proper way to use this is you have a proper grip that's not too heavy. If you have a really strong grip on the ball, you're going to throw the ball in dirt. When the ball lands 45 feet from you, it's because you squeeze too hard. So this allows you to get a feel for how hard you want to squeeze and yet still do your motion.
That makes total sense, right? You're talking about we play baseball, so why would you not have a baseball, not a towel?
Yeah. So now with the towel. So if you have the towel, if you can see, there's, I don't know if you can see the forearm.
Yeah, you can.
There, right? So these are the two that would grab the towel. So if you put this in your finger, if you put this to grab it, you're going to grab it right like this, and it'll come out this way. So when I grab this, I don't want these muscles to be contracting because these muscles are the decelerating muscles, not the accelerator muscles. This on this side is what you want to use to accelerate. You want your hand to go this way. Well, if you're squeezing this towel and you're squeezing these muscles at the same time, you're not promoting flexing your hand. So to throw a off-speed pitch this way, you can't really do it as well as or the fastball. And you want to get all about, everybody talks about spin rate coming off your fingers. It's not easy to go like that with your hand when you're contracting the opposite side. Just like when you're throwing a lot of, we've done so many exercises with the back of the muscle, the back of the shoulder, sorry, that you see now a lot of people throwing with the back of the shoulder. They're accelerating with the top of their arm and the back of the shoulder, which is the opposite. Those are decelerating muscles, not accelerating muscles. Yeah. So we're running into real problems, and there's certain pitchers out there when I see it, I cringe because eventually they're going to get hurt. And the problem is not that they're going to get hurt, is it's very difficult to recover from because you got to change, you got to go 180 degrees and start using totally different muscles.
Well, so yeah, you're learning to use the wrong muscles for the wrong purpose and the wrong reason. And especially when we talk about velocity so much in this day and age, right? That's the buzzword. And,
not just velocity, but the spin rates.
Spin rate, yeah.
To create spin, you're doing this with your hand and you're using this part of your forearm. And it's funny that pitchers tend not to work their forearm muscles for some reason, and they don't work their tricep muscle. I don't know why that is, but everyone I talk to, you never see them doing just curls. It's some of them do this and do this, but a lot of them don't do it straight arm. I like to do it this way where it's straight and you're pulling up this way because it's the length of the arm, so that when you extend your arm, so if I'm extending my arm, I want all this to be able to contract through in here. But if the only way to do that is if you do it this way, and hitters do that, but pitchers don't. So I like to always do the forearm muscle work this way.
Yeah.
And then tricep muscle, so your tricep extends your arm, and at this end, yep. At the other end, it's a decelerator that goes with the rotator cuff muscles in the back. I haven't met a pitcher yet that works their tricep muscles out. When I started with John, it was scary how weak his tricep muscle was. And that was the one thing that we strengthened right away. And it wasn't hard because it was starting from almost zero.
Yeah.
But a lot of kids. So the thing is though, is that some may do this, they might do something like this or come straight out. But I do the other end, which you have to go straight arm, straight back. And I do it, if you can see this, palm this way, and then flip it and palm back this way. That gets you back in here, where they originate, and then this is where they attach. So you want to work both ends of the tricep. That is your accelerator and decelerator in the same muscle.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. You're right. And it keeps the muscle long, like you were saying too, right? By having it straight armed and stuff like that, instead of really getting it condensed, especially if you're doing throwing motions, right?
Right. The other thing that comes into an issue is when they do things wrong early, they tend not to be able to straighten their arm out.
Yeah.
Once their arm can't straighten out, their tricep muscle doesn't fully contract. So you have you're not really working that muscle that well. So, and the shorter that gets, the worse it is for the tricep. The shorter your arm angle. So your arm, should go straight, right? Well, you start to see them start going like this, and they can't extend their arm. So they're trying to extend, but it's like this. You can't get this to contract here like that. Wow. So it becomes a real problem on, trying to get it strong. So you really need to start that young. You have to maintain that range of motion in that joint. And the best way to do it, and the reason why I don't think people do it right is because they'll work their bicep muscle and not work the tricep. It's not that I don't want you to work the bicep muscle. It's like you just have to make sure you work the tricep with it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, thanks for pointing that out. That's huge for you. You know, dirtbags, pay attention to that for sure, what Chris is saying, because here's a guy that's been doing it since, what is it, about 1990, 1989. Chris, you've been doing
I,
what you do. And
I started with the Mariners minor league system in 1988,
yeah,
and I left and started with John Smoltz in 1991. And you know, the thing that people don't realize is that John had a labrum tear when he was 24 years old. So it was really difficult to make it to 40, well, 41 or 42, I guess is when he had his finally had his shoulder done.
yeah,
So that was interesting to be able to get over that. And the way we did it was I focused on his hip joints, not his shoulder joint as much. We had to make sure his hip joints were right. It took the pressure off the shoulder joint. Remember what I talked about with you before as far as the shoulder joint and the hip joint having a congruent, motion. So they need to spin so that they're congruent with each other. If one's spinning out this way, the other will spin the opposite way. So it makes it very difficult to have a fluid motion. So you have to go into the hip joints, like clear the hip joints out. We strengthen the hip joints, and then we take a look at the shoulder joint.
yeah. And that's just super important that you said that, Chris, because obviously, I mean, but the masses don't, right? We perceive throwing a football, javelin, baseball, whatever it is, with our upper body, right? Our arm. And we forget the true connection, if you will, right from the ground up through the hips to allow those transfers like you're talking about.
Right. So when I did a study back in 1991 where it's the Mariners, and I looked at the range of motion, the internal and external range of motion. It was the first study ever done like that in baseball. And I found that, if you had less than 25 degrees of internal rotation, you were going to get hurt. Either your elbow or shoulder was going to get hurt. But I did a survey of sort of other health history. And I found out you're 4 times more likely to have a shoulder problem if you had a low back problem. And so what I started doing, that's when I started looking at the hip joint in association with the shoulder joint. So what happens is when I clear out the hip joint, the shoulder joint becomes flexible on its own. It'll go from 25 to 60 or more based on their genetics. And so I clear out the shoulder by clearing out the hip. So if the factors that can make your hip bad could be a sprained ankle. When between the boys between 16 and 18 has usually a testosterone rush in their body, through puberty and all. Well, the acupuncture point in the body for that, one of them for that, is in your ankle, right where most of them sprain their ankle. So it's interesting that at that time period, you see a lot of boys sprain their ankle. It's because of the change in the testosterone. It gets too high too quickly, and it kind of makes that blow out. So that's why a lot of times you'll have a lot of sprained ankles at that age, and then later on, they don't sprain them. So, but when you sprain that ankle at that age or earlier, it can affect the muscles of your hip joint. So if that sprained ankle is not treated correctly, the hip joint can become tight without you knowing it, or lack of rotation, the rotational flexibility could be inhibited, consequently affecting the shoulder, where I have gone in and stretched the ankle out and stretch the hip and stretch the ankle out, then take a look at the shoulder, and the shoulder has great motion. And I think it's because your brain knows where the original problem is. So if I sprain my ankle and don't take care of it, and all of a sudden I start having problems with my velocity, if I go back to the ankle and make sure the ankle's right, the shoulder will clear itself out. You won't have to do anything to the shoulder because your brain knows that the ankle was the problem.
Okay. So with all that knowledge, you can be able to relate it and grow the rope trainer, if you will, or whatever, and that for your players and everybody else, by being able to look at their body and being able to work it. And obviously you're a lot more seasoned than, the majority of people out there, but how did you find that because of your understanding there, you understood that the rope trainer was able to work in a variety of ways in a positive manner?
Right. Well, the big thing is that as soon as they start using the rope and they can't use the rope right, I know there's something wrong with the body. So you got to go back and clear out the body. Then you can start using the rope and you see, oh, it's a lot easier to use the rope. And it's a more positive experience.
Yeah.
So that was the first, that's why the first thing I had to look at the body. So we got to clear that out. So then what I do is I first clear the body out. I look at any strengths and weaknesses. We address that. Then we take the rope and we start to help them create the proper throwing mechanics. If you go from adjusting the body, strengthening, and go right to throwing, you may not change the actual mechanics of them throwing. They may go right back to their old patterns because they haven't done a step. I call it the intermediary step, that the rope allows for you to make those changes without the stress to your body and your arm so that it's proper and you can do it over and over again. You know, I can go off the mound. If I want to throw 30 pitches off the mound, my arm's going to be pretty tired if I'm a closer or something, if I'm a pitcher. But I can take the rope and without throwing, I might be able to do 50 of them and get that much more work in. I equate it to when I used to skydive. You know, when I was going through the program and I couldn't get the proper technique down because you only got 60 seconds in the air. Well, I went to an indoor skydiving place where I could do 15 minutes at a time or a half hour at a time. So I'm getting 15 or 30 jumps to my one jump. So I could go, so I went from my worst jump to my best jump going one time for 15 minutes in an indoor center because I could do more time under less pressure. Because I'm not thinking about dying, you know.
No, so, we don't want that, brother.
So you can make all those adjustments and not be so scared. And so the same thing with the rope. You can do a lot more throwing with the rope than you would throwing the actual baseball. And consequently, you're conditioning your body with the rope as well as your arm. Like I tell the guys, look, if you want to change your pitching mechanics, you go on the mound with the rope and go through your mechanics. Get them right then before you start throwing the baseball. Because once you start throwing the baseball, it's not going to get any better. So you have to be able to do it with the rope first before you think you're going to do it with just throwing a ball.
Yeah, ideally, that's right. That's what it offers, right? That repetitive, you know, and the way it's been designed with you guys, it really does. It's a self-correcting tool almost. It's not a perfectly self-correcting tool or whatever, not, but the feedback that comes with it, the way it's set up and designed, you're going to improve. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. You're going to improve and have to make adjustments, and not, like you said, not necessarily with your brain to your arm. It'll be the brain to the body to make sure that's working right and wrong.
Well, the other thing is what I really like about it is that a guy can go on the mound every day with the rope and condition his body to throw. And you can't do that by throwing every day. Or some people do, but it's not always recommended. So, but the rope every day, I can condition their legs. They can work on their mechanics, their body mechanics to come through so that every pitch can have the same release point. But it's important that they get it right on the mound. And the only way to do that is if you have the rope in your hand. Now you can use the towel, but then you're using the wrong muscles to throw.
Yeah,
so it's
proved it.
You know, you might condition your body, but now you've deconditioned your arm. And that's a problem. So that's why I really like the rope. You can condition your body to be a pitcher or a thrower and not have to throw the ball.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So let's get to that point. Actually, at the top of the show, I said for pitchers, let's make the adjustment based off of what you've given us for feedback as starters, Chris. And let's go ahead and do position players for the back end of this episode. And then the next one, we'll go with the pitchers and stuff like that and talk about spin rate and how you create it with the rope. And so, you know, you've talked about your lower half and the hips and the involvement and everything like that. If you don't mind standing up maybe in that and getting back and just showing some of the mistakes that you see, you know, like you said, with throwing motions and what you would recommend they make changes and how they make those changes with the rope trainer.
Okay, so the big thing is that I'll have to go up close here is with the hand. Okay, so if you're throwing the ball like this, almost like a slider, if you're a position player and you're throwing like this, you're getting the wrong spin. your spin is going to slide and it could go, right, left to right. Whereas you want to be able to do straight down, and you need to have pressure on your two fingers. And so what I'll do is I'll do a drill with them, and I'll have them put pressure on their middle finger when they throw and see what happens to their hand. If their hand goes this way, we know that they're not using their forearm very well. And then we'll have them use their index finger and have them throw with that one. And then what they do is if they pronate their hand finally, we know they're not using their two fingers right. So basically so we want them to throw it and their arm to pronate. This is pronation. This is supination. Supination, if you hold a bowl of soup, that's supination. And pronation is if you go the other way. So you want to be able to go the other way. So with the rope, you can, if it's behind you this way, if I could see if I'm doing this, I can see the ropes going this way. The rope should be coming right at the camera there. It should be coming this way. As you come through, it should come forward. But if you're doing that, I'm over here. So the feedback is that I'm cutting the ball and I'm not going to throw as hard as I can if I throw it that way.
Yeah.
So
getting those fingers behind the ball, like they say, right?
Right. So especially with the young kids, if they have too much, if you they may have to have their third finger on the ball. Right. So if they can understand what finger pressure they have, they'll understand what they're doing. So if you can have them close their eyes and say, go through that, where was your pressure? If they're going like this, they'll say it's on my ring finger. And then you say, well, let me see you put it on your index finger, and then you'll see them go like this, right down the middle. And then they'll start to understand, oh, the pressure on my fingers is important. A lot of them think it's just grabbing it and it's their body or their hand or their arm throwing the ball. And they don't realize that their fingers are creating a lot of that. So now, if you have problems with the index finger going through this way, that means you're not using the front of your body. You're probably using the back of your arm to throw the ball. When you're out here, it's using the back and your lat, believe it or not, to help throw the ball. But if you're using your index finger, you're pulling from the front and you're coming through.
Yeah.
And if you're not strong here to do that, then it's going to put pressure in your arm because you're going to drop your arm down in order to do it.
Okay.
So what the rope does is you can get your mechanics right first, then put a ball in their hand. And we don't know how long that's going to take, depending upon their skill level.
Sure.
So if we're having them just go up there, pick there and throw without having to do it right. So wouldn't you want to be able to do this 3 times, 4 times more than actually throwing and get it right? And that's what's so great about it. You can actually do a lot more practice, no stress on the arm, and learn the mechanics.
Absolutely. It's yeah, exactly right. And I'm glad you talked about that too. The pronation and stuff, because a lot, and I know a lot of customers have written back, but a lot of players that we train with, exactly right. That tether ends up flying right out of the ball. And they're like, what's wrong with this thing? It's broken. What's going on? It's not broken. It's actually showing you, dirtbags, that your motion is wrong.
Right.
So you can, like Chris said, you can do nothing about it and go into your game and your ball's going to run and tail and do whatever based on your throwing motion, but it's never going to have the true velocity that's in it. And it's not going to have the accuracy that's in it. So eventually you're just going to plateau and you're going to be out of the game and you're going to be disappointed instead of slowly understanding or having a product like this, a training aid like this, where you can get those reps in and you can trust the reps that have been in, because Chris looks at it from this angle, the biomechanical side and the physiological side, to correct it. And that's the information that's got into the placards and the information cards that are included with the rope trainer, as well as Preston Peavy with the data collection on it, like the stress on the arm and all that proven data collection with it. And so, you know what, those recommendations that come with each and every single rope that's sold, those are tried and true, and they're tested over and over and over again. How long have you been with them, Chris? Since like 2016?
5 years. So
yeah.
5 years.
Yeah, and you're passionate about getting it right. That's what you do. I said professional trainer, and in a sense you are, or whatever in that, but what actually are you? What do you look at, and what's your expertise?
Well, I'm basically a flexibility specialist, and I looked at, with being in base starting in baseball, I looked at rotational flexibility. So, and with rotational flexibility, it's not just are the muscles pliable or stretching. It's if you're think about your shoulder and it'd be 5 muscles, are all 5 of them working? Are all 5 of them as equally strong as they should be? Or is only 2 working or 3 working? And if you only if you only have if you don't have all 5 of them working, instead of getting a motion like this, you're gonna get an oblong motion, and you're gonna get an egg-shaped motion. So you need all of them working so that the rotation, the spin, you want the spin as tight as you can, so that holds the joint in place. So all those muscles are just holding the joint in place under stress. So all as I do is look at those types of things, both with the hip joint and the shoulder joint. So that rotational flexibility is not just, do I have good range of motion, is do I have good strength in my range of motion? And that's a problem that we haven't really addressed very well.
Well, that's coming, buddy. I know you're doing the work for it. So behind the scenes, but that's a secret, Dirtbags. We can't let that cat out of the hat yet. That's something that's going to come down the pipe. And it'll be an exciting one too, where we'll have Chris back on talking about it for sure. So, but hopefully, Dirtbags, now, again, like I just said, that a better understanding of who Chris Verna is, where the relationship to the rope trainer is, how he was able to bring John Smoltz, his involvement to the rope, and understanding that it is a valuable tool. And like he says, right, every player from, the pros to the little league should have one and be able to utilize it and stuff like that. But I hope you have a better understanding of how that connection is and how serious it is. It's not just a commercial or fly by the seat of our pants things. No, this is real, from real people that understand it, the best in the business. So I don't know. There's not much more to say. So exactly right. Do you have any final thoughts, or we're pretty good covering off that area of it, just for throwers in general, Chris?
Yeah, for throwers in general, you want to know that you correct your body. You need then to change the mechanics or adjust your mechanics to make it more efficient, and then you throw with the baseball. You got to understand that there's 3 phases to this if you're trying to change something. If you've been hurt and it's because of your mechanics, you need to go through those 3 steps. A lot of people just go, oh, I'll just rest and then go back throwing. You got to make the changes. I see it in all the sports, all the throwing sports. Like when I deal with a quarterback or something, it's the same scenario. They don't understand it, that their body doesn't change, their mechanics aren't going to change. So first thing you do, you change your body. I said, okay, I changed my body. Now let me go check to make sure I have the right mechanics down and the right idea down. That's where the rope comes in. So you go through the rope, making sure you have the right mechanics, and then you test everything out by putting the ball in your hand and throwing.
Enough said right there, Dirtbags. I'm not dwelling on that. So somebody wants to get in touch with Chris Verna, where can they find you?
I'm in Boca Raton, Florida, and
you on social media?
You can email me, or I guess I'm kind of old school yet. I have an IG, but I don't really use it yet.
No, but you're busy. You're a one-man show or whatever because of that passion for that hands-on, and you having it and understanding the importance of it as well. So,
I'll launch something with IG once I come out with the new equipment.
Yeah.
Hopefully that next quarters.
Yeah. Well, in the meantime, then, if you can't get in touch with Chris or whatever and stuff like that, or you do happen to forget the name, reach out to us and we'll send it through to Chris without question, because we want this throwing component understood and healthy and right for you, so you can enjoy this game of baseball, whatever level you're playing at. Doesn't matter the level. We just want you to be the best thrower in the game of baseball that you can be. So if you want to get a rope trainer, you can go to www.dirtbagbaseballnation.com. We've got them right on the site there for you. We'll get it ordered. We'll get it shipped off to you. Get these in your hands, and we're always willing to do follow-up protocols. We do it with all the customers, hands down, because like Chris said, and hopefully you understand now, we want you to get it right. We actually want you to get it right. We don't want you just to have the product. We want it to be understood, so you're moving forward in a positive manner in your baseball journey. So again, thanks, Chris. I can't thank you enough for coming on, talking about that one. I know we're going to be back on again, talking about pitchers and the spin rate, like I said. And hey, get right back here, Dirtbags, for that next episode of Dirtbag Baseball Talk. You can subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us, and on Facebook and Instagram at Dirtbag Baseball Nation, and we'll go from there. So in the meantime, you know what time of the week it is, everybody. It's time to get up, get after it, and get dirty.